Hey everybody, welcome back to Milwaukee Beer Review. As always, I'm Josh.
And I'm Ross.
And we are continuing our series of the German chocolate cake from Third Space Brewing Company today. So if you saw our last video, we reviewed the first 3 beers. As a reminder, this is a deconstructed dessert series, similar to what they did last year in 2020 with the Mocha Pie series. So this is essentially taking the same base bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout and adding different adjuncts to it and separating them out into 6 different beers until finally we reach the pinnacle, which is the full German chocolate cake, which includes all of the adjuncts in a single beer that we tried throughout this series. So we're going to dive right into this thing today. And we're going to start with beer number 4 in the series. So Ross, what the heck is that?
Yeah. So before we get to that, just a reminder what we did the first episode, if you guys didn't see it, and the link will be posted below, is we did the base, the chocolate, and the vanilla. So as we're working our way up to the German chocolate cake. So and now we start with the coconut. So this one came out in November of 2021. This is going to be aging for 7 months in bourbon barrels. Just like the other ones, this one comes in at 13.5% ABV. So this one came out with the vanilla one at the first part of November. When this one came out. So
as a reminder, we waited until we had all 6 of these to try them, all in one series here. Ross avoided having any of it on tap on tap at the brewery during pickup. So let's get a little nose on the coconut.
So with the chocolate and vanilla one, I definitely think the adjuncts or the variants kind of like took over on the nose. This one, while the coconut's pretty prominent, I still get quite a bit of the bourbon on this one. I don't know about you, but I'm still getting very much what we're getting from the base with that.
I'm getting way more coconut, or way more bourbon than coconut. Like, I'm actually barely getting coconut on the nose.
I'm getting the coconut, but compared to the last 2 that we just did, it's definitely much more, the variant's much more tame than the chocolate and the vanilla. I would say that. I
completely agree with that. I'm looking for the coconut on the nose on this, and I'm not getting it. I'm not getting much at all.
It's there for me. It's not prominent, but it's there.
To me, this smells like the base.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's see what we got on the palate. Right. Cheers. Okay.
Coconut's there.
Coconut's 100% there on the palate. Way more coconut on the taste than I'm getting on the nose. Like, the coconut is prominent on the taste of this.
Yeah. So it's actually really well done because I'm not a huge fan of coconut to begin with. However, like I think I don't like to eat coconut because I think it's like a texture thing.
Do you like crack open a coconut and just munch on it?
Nope.
Why not? So good. I hate coconut, so I would never do that either. Just asking. Maybe you would. Maybe you would do that.
Yeah, because all the coconuts I just have laying around in Wisconsin.
Have you ever seen the movie Moana?
No.
Really good. They eat coconut all the time.
Getting quite sidetracked here.
This has got a ton of coconut. Very similar, if you watched our last video, the taste notes of the beer don't really come in on the front end. There's like a delay.
Yeah.
And it seems like mid-palate, you get a ton of coconut. The bourbon is actually pretty subdued in the taste notes of this. It sits behind the coconut, similar to the other adjuncts we've seen.
Yeah.
Where the bourbon takes second place to the adjunct.
Yeah. And this is probably the first one where we talked in the last episode about a lot of how, like last year with the Mocha Pie, what we got in the nose was what we got on the palate. And the chocolate and vanilla this year so far just proved that. This is kind of reminds me a lot of last year where we weren't getting a ton of coconut in the nose, but you get a lot of it on the palate.
Yep. Very interesting. But the nose is still good. Like the nose is actually bourbon forward, but then the palate, the coconut really takes over.
Agreed. If I'm looking at this one on Untappd, I'm in a weird position because I don't like it as much as the base, but I like it more than I like the chocolate. So if I had to kind of put it somewhere, I'm going to stick this at a 3.75. It's really, really, really good. I kind of want to put the, but if I'm ranking them as I've kind of talked about throughout, it's right in between the base and the chocolate for me.
I actually like this more than the base. I'm actually going to put this one at a 4.25.
Okay.
I think this is really, really good. The coconut plays so nicely with this beer. Like, there's still the chocolate fudgy bourbon characteristics to a bourbon barrel-aged stout like this, but like the coconut plays so nicely in here, and it's very clearly coconut on the palate. I just love the way this plays, and I'm not even a huge coconut fan. I still think this is a bump up from the base just because there's more going on here, and it's done really well.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put this at 4.25.
Sounds good.
Alrighty.
What's next?
Up next is another unique one. So this one is the Pecan. So this is, again, a continuation of adding single adjuncts to the base beer. This one was actually released in December, so this month, as we're recording this. I probably shouldn't date us on this, but it was it was released in December 2021. Bourbon barrel aged, just like the base stout. The only addition on this is pecans, which is kind of an interesting addition. I don't know that I've seen a beer that is just pecans as the only adjunct.
I can't think of it as only. And honestly, I've seen more pecan added to brown ales instead of stouts.
Yeah.
I think that's more of an adjunct for brown ales. Now, as we mentioned, the aging process takes place on the date it was released, because they're all put. So this one comes in at 8 months, as opposed to the last two that were 7 and the previous two that were 6.
Yep. So this is part of the December release, 13.5%, just like the rest. 8 months aged in those barrels. Let's get a little nose on the pecan. I guess if... Go ahead.
I'm getting all bourbon. This smells very similar to the base, in my opinion.
If I'm reaching, I might be able to say there's a little bit more of a nuttiness to this, but I'm reaching. And that's knowing that I'm looking for pecans. I'm reaching, if I'm saying that.
Yeah, to me, I mean, and look... I don't smell a lot of pecans. Like, maybe I don't know exactly what pecans are supposed to smell.
Pecans don't have like a significant scent.
Exactly.
Unless you're at Miller Park and they've got like the cinnamon covered like nut machine
That's
thing
the
that
cinnamon that you're smelling.
Yeah, they roll it all up. Yeah, you know, the nut machine. They roll it up in the nut machine. Okay.
Anyway, so
pecans.
All I'm really getting on this is it smells very similar to the base, maybe slightly sweeter. But I think I'm reaching. To your point, we're reaching for something.
If you're trying to find something on this nose, you've got to know it's there to even pick it out.
I would agree.
It's not significant. All right, let's give it a shot.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So, like on the nose for me, I don't know what you're getting, but on the nose, on the palate, it's actually very similar to the base. I'm not getting a very big distinct difference from this to the base. It has a slightly less bourbon bite, but I'm not getting any sort of like pecan nuttiness to this one that I think is supposed to be coming out.
I think this just might be the fact that pecans don't have a strong flavor. Like, even if you eat a pecan, you eat the nut, you put the nut in your mouth, you taste it, you're not getting a lot of flavor. It's very simplistic, right? The flavor of a pecan is simplistic. So you're not getting a lot. I think this just might be because you add a bunch of pecans to a beer like this, the bourbon, the chocolate notes, the oaky character from the barrel is going to overtake that. Like, it's going to be hard to get pecans to showcase.
If we're being very honest, when you look at like adding pecans to anything, it's not supposed to be the star of the show.
Agreed.
It's an adjunct to add some to add a little bit of like earthy taste to it with more of a texture. You know, pecans are more of a texture thing added to whatever you're adding them to, as opposed to the star of the show. So I like this, but like to me, this very much tastes like a slightly mellowed down version of the base.
If you told me this was the base beer, I would believe you.
Exactly.
I think with that though, I don't think I can rate this lower than the base unless you factor in you're expecting some type of nuttiness, pecan flavor to it that's just not here. I'm going to be honest, it's not here. So I think I do have to take that into account, and I'm going to put this at the lowest rated one of them at 3.75 for me.
Okay.
I still think it's a fantastic beer, to be honest. If you told me this was the base beer, I'd be like, this is great. This is really good. But because it is the pecan adjunct, I got to put it at a 3.75. It's below the base.
That's fair, and you're absolutely right in the sense that if it's supposed to have that adjunct in it, and we're not getting it, I'm just going to ignore that, though. Despite the fact I only rate beers,
Okay.
I'm going to put this right the same with the base and put it at 4. Because I really enjoy it. And I really enjoy the base. And, like, I think my like for the base and this one outweighs the idea that I'm missing the adjunct that I think is supposed to be there. So I'm going to put this right at 4 with the base.
That's fair.
So.
I don't think you're wrong. I think this is as good as the base.
Yeah.
But it's not supposed to be the same thing as the base, which
fair.
is
You're right.
why I'm putting it where it is. All right.
So, we made it. We're on beer 6. So this is the chocolate. Got it.
You can count. It took me a while to get to 6 fingers.
I know. I was trying to put up the Bulls titles. All 6 of them. It's really hard.
Get out of here.
So this is the chocolate, vanilla, the coconut, and the pecan all mixed together. So this is what we came here for. You kind of like made our way to the mountaintop. So this one, again, it came out with the pecan. This one's at 13.5%. It was aged for 8 months in those bourbon barrels. Everything we just talked about now just all mushed together.
Yep.
So
pretty much all the adjuncts plus the base beer. Let's get a little nose on the full German chocolate cake.
I'm really curious what comes out on the nose.
Vanilla.
Immediately vanilla.
It's no doubt. That's what it is. Which is a good thing for them.
Give it a little swirl. There's a little fudginess that comes out from that chocolate. But I'm not getting the coconut. And as we talked about the last one, there really isn't much to pecan to like come out in this one. But
I'm definitely getting vanilla, maybe a slightly stronger hint of fudge, like a stronger hint of like fudge chocolate than what you got from the base vanilla by itself. The vanilla, though, is the prominent character on the nose,
here.
for sure.
Now, one thing to think about when we did the one from the mocha pie one last year, when we got to the coffee was relatively faint.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's such an overpowering taste that they toned that one down so you didn't take
Which is
over.
smart.
I kind of look at the pecan as the same way. It was kind of a toned down. I think it's just more to kind of maybe mellow something out as we get into this.
Yeah,
But we'll
could
see.
be.
So.
I think the pecan's an accident, to be honest. Like, the pecan's just kind of there. Like, if it's as prominent in this as it was in its own standalone adjunct-based beer, it's not even going to show up here.
Yeah, but it might be there just to mellow something out.
Sure.
So,
Could be.
all right.
Let's give it a shot.
Cheers.
Cheers. Whoa.
The coconut's there more than like on the nose.
What's interesting about this, to me, the bourbon is definitely like the third character. It's well baked into the beer. The front end of this, actually, I get like chocolate, milk chocolate. About mid-palate, the vanilla starts to kick in. And by the tail end of the beer, the vanilla becomes the star. But the chocolate's there, like the chocolate's actually what lingers on the palate.
See, it's funny that you're saying, because like to your point, like I get the chocolate up front. From there on, it's vanilla and coconut. I'm getting a good chunk of that coconut towards the end of this.
Really? I think the coconut's there for me. I'm not able to pick it out as well. So I think the vanilla and the chocolate characters are so prominent on this that I'm just not picking it out.
I think they blended this really well together.
I
mean, and that's the thing, like, and it's interesting you and I are, because I feel you and I have pretty similar palates, but
Yeah.
I'm getting the coconut much more than probably you are. but it's not overpowering. We're like, oh, this finishes coconut. I think this is the coconut one, like because you definitely get the chocolate up front, you get the vanilla all the way through the back half, and then just a little bit of that coconut right at the end.
Yeah.
And honestly, the bourbon's buried. Like I get no bourbon on this.
It's
whatsoever.
very buried. Which, you know what? I mean, when you start adding all these different adjuncts into a beer, you kind of expect that. Because if the bourbon's overpowering all that, you're not going to get those flavors.
And you can turn people away from it.
You will.
Someone wants a German chocolate cake beer and they just get bourbon. It's like, oh, that's not what I wanted. This, I mean, I've had German chocolate cake. I can't remember the last time I had one, though. But this taste, it has a nice dessert palate to it. It has a nice dessert kind of feel to it without, like, being, like, a pastry stout, though. It's definitely got like
it's not syrupy. It's not super viscous. It's just really good flavors in this. Yeah. No, I agree with you completely. I still think between this, the final beer, and the vanilla, I'm giving the edge to the vanilla by itself.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. If I got to put this on Untappd, I think this is at 4 1/4. Leaning, it's right in the middle between 4 1/4 and 4 1/2 because the vanilla is still prominent on this. But I'm going to put it at 4 1/4.
I think it's 4 1/4. I think there's so much happening here that's not necessarily better. It's not bad. There's so much happening here, though, that's not necessarily better than the vanilla. I can't give it the same score. I think the vanilla is still the shining star this year in their series. I think next year, Third Space, if you do this again, what I would like to actually do is actually have whatever dessert they have here on the table, and we try it right before we try the last beer. I think that would be an interesting take to see how close does this taste to the actual dessert. But from what I remember about German chocolate cake, this is pretty damn close. I think 4 1/4 is still a damn good score. I mean, I got to give them all the credit in the world. This is a super cool series. It's fun.
This is maybe one of the funnest like beer series that we do.
Yeah.
Like, I really enjoy this one because it's such a good variety, and the fact we rated this between a 3.75 to 4 1/2.
Yeah,
that's a damn good score. I mean, end of the day, average is 2 1/2, and the lowest one we rated, and we struggled even putting it there was 3.75.
Well, what's average on our channel though?
I get that. I mean, but like, in a scale of 5, 2.5 is still
50% you're saying is 2.5. I would say average is probably a little higher than that, but I know what you're saying.
Math disagrees. Math would say
50%. That's fine. We're not here to talk about math. We're here to talk about people and decisions and opinions, amateur ones. So, no, this is good stuff though. I mean, Third Space. Awesome job again this year. This is fun. We look forward to this every year. We have a blast with it. So, so well done. This is fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, this year's Third Space Deconstructed Dessert Series is complete. Let us know what you think. If you've tried these, if you've tried any of the 6 variants in this series, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Check us out on the rest of our social media channels. We are on Facebook, Untappd, Instagram, Twitter is the other one.
And then where we see this.
We see this here on YouTube. So if you're here, you're already on YouTube. So like, comment, subscribe, hit the little bell icon. You'll get notifications as we release new content every single week. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in a future episode.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.